I was watching Amarax Games video yesterday titled "If She Wanted to, She Would," which is more dating advice that he provides on if a woman wants to hang out with you, she will find time to make it possible to hang out with you, or flip the script for the other end. I did respond, though I was more talking about the platonic side, to which I said, something similar is happening with me, though it's more platonic, not looking to date. And vaguely, or rather briefly, I said, I understand with her being busy, with it being tax season, and she's a tax accountant. So tax accountants, they have to kind of work until, I want to say May or something. But it feels down to text. She doesn't want to text back and forth like before, about a month or two ago, but then finds time to ride her motorcycle with her other friends, and when she does text, it feels like it's hours to respond. It feels like on her list of priorities, I'm near the bottom. And then I said, honestly, for people in general, if you aren't talking with them as much, and then she or they, in terms of people, are making excuses and are busy constantly, it means you aren't a priority in their life. And that's where I want to kind of segue into this video, is that I kind of want to approach it from the platonic side of life, when it comes to friendships or even family members for that matter. Because really, that can be applied to friends and family when you think about it too. And there's a lot of stories I can dig up in my life about how, I've tried to hang out with friends and try to set time aside for them, and just, things come up. I want to stress, first and foremost, things do come up in life, and sometimes people are busy for periods of time. But some other stories in my life, aside from my platonic friend, I had a friend in Colorado that was constantly busy. Now, to be fair, he broke down his work schedule. He was working, he was also getting his electrical engineering degree, and he was also doing fencing. Like, he had a lot of things going on in his life. So I understood, his position. But once he graduated, and I was about a month or two ahead of him, well, more like a semester actually, in terms of our credentials. But he told me that, hey, he's going to get a lot more free time. He's going to finally be able to enjoy life and do more things. And, maybe want to hang out with me more. Well, spoiler alert, that never happened. And then actually, the one time he did was the day that I was leaving Colorado Springs. But then I would hang out with him one last time on my way to South Dakota. But in general, it just felt like our friendship was kind of becoming distance. Like, I was not becoming a priority in his life. And that happens. Eventually, our friendship would come to an end with a sort of blunt phone call, but that's not the point of this story I'm trying to say, is priorities do change in people's life. And sometimes it isn't, personal for the most part. But, we can even talk about it with family members too. I'll tie that in. My cousin is working to get his EMT license because he wants to stop painting. He's been a volunteer firefighter, but he wants to kind of go a bit further in there because he's been doing painting for, quite a couple of decades, and he's had enough of it. And it happens, sometimes you just want to change the pace. And he's juggling a lot of things at once. He's got 4 kids technically to handle, give or take. The 4th one is technically on his own, but still, that's another child in the mix. And then, he has 2 cats and a wife. It's like he's got a lot going on. So when I first moved up here, he was able to find time for us to be able to hang out. But, getting his EMT license clearly has taken up a lot of his time. Now, to be fair, it's only going to be till May. And he has made that sort of promise that once that's done and he's settled, he definitely wants to hang out again. And I don't doubt that in the slightest. It's just, the point I'm trying to get at here is there are circumstances that depend on the person, and sometimes it's just a part of life. Friends come and go, family members, their priorities change depending on where they are at in life. And at the end of the day, though, tying it back to Amarax Games video, if people really want to hang out with you outside of, the dating aspect, but want to be your friend through and through, then they will make time for you. And obviously, there are situations where life happens. But the point I want to make is, how many times does this happen? Is the ratio of hanging out busy, is it strong? Is it, weak? let me explain. Are they hanging out with you more than they are busy? Or if they are busy, when they do hang out with you, they spend an X amount of time with you? Those are the kind of questions you should ask yourself, at least how I look at it. And if you're just hanging out with them with little bite-sized moments, like, just getting coffee, and then they're busy for weeks on end, and then it's like little bite-sized moments, yeah, it kind of takes a stinger. It seems like you're just a checkbox, because it may not seem like it to them, but to you, it kind of stings a bit, especially if you felt like there was a connection with this individual. Again, platonic here for my version of this video, because I don't want to outright steal Amarex's idea. But anyway, you feel like you're not on their list of priorities, and that you don't matter to them, even though you felt a connection of some kind. And really, the best thing to do is to kind of just take a step back and, evaluate that ratio that I mentioned earlier. If it's just those little bite-sized moments and you kind of have to initiate things more than actually them initiating something, is it really worth it to continue that relationship with that individual? Well, that's where it's kind of up to you to decide. And really, I can't give a clear answer. But, I think that ratio and kind of breaking it down like that does help. Which ties me back into the story I mentioned in my comment on this video as at the beginning here. To which, applying that same logic, I feel that, on the one hand, I think the ratio is still strong in the sense of this individual, they still want to hang out with me. Because I'm keeping it platonic. There's a whole story here that I will not divulge into it, but I do feel like, there is a relationship there, platonically. And, working in taxes, there are busy periods. And to be fair, her work has not been treating her the best when it comes to this kind of stuff. But where my thought process is, and what I'm going to be doing is, I'm just going to wait for her to initiate the conversation by just texting. Because it seems like just trying to get a response isn't really working. And at the end of the day, if I don't really hear from her much often, the best thing you can do is just kind of move on. Maybe they'll reach out to you one day again. Maybe they won't. And you're kind of just, moving on and getting on with your life. Because at the end of the day, you do have to think about yourself and not to tamper your expectations and wanting to hurt yourself by setting expectations that person doesn't meet. They're living their own world and their own life. And if you are blessed enough to spend that opportunity with that person in their life, then that's awesome. That's great. But it can sometimes even hurt and sting with not just friends, but also family members. And, again, back to his video, also with, the dating scene, so to speak. And that's really all I have to kind of say about this kind of topic, his video kind of spoke to me a bit because that kind of advice he was giving, it doesn't have to just apply to, the dating scene. It can apply to real life, again, with friends and family that I kind of was pointing out in this video. So, anyway, that's all I have to say in this video. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to know when I go live because we are still, as always, on the road to hit 300 subscribers by the end of next month. And as of recording, I am at 179 subscribers, so we are still rocking and rolling and getting forward. And I'm just going to continue doing it as I am, because we still have a whole month and a week left to hit this goal. And I have no doubt I think we're going to reach that goal soon. I have a lot of confidence and faith that we will. So anyway, I will see you guys on Thursday with another video. Y'all take care.